It's a brisk September early morning here at the campground, and so I have to do this video quickly because I'm freezing. Some of you might be wondering why on earth we decided to live in a trailer over the summer. I feel like there is definitely this trend going towards tiny homes. But still, I think it's one of those things that not everyone understands, especially as a family of 4 with a teenager. And then some of you might also be wondering just, what it's like. I mean, just curious about what it's like to live in a trailer in a campground for the summer. I thought I would let you in on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good first. It has been a whirlwind of fun this summer, of making simple, easy memories. In fact, it's very reminiscent of my own childhood when, we didn't have quite as many electronics to choose from and we could just simply go outside and run around and not have to worry too much about it. I think there was something really nice about having that simple fun of just the kids just going off throughout the day to the parks, and we would come to the lake and they would go, Wilder, it was his first time jumping in off of like the pier into the lake here and things like that. And so all these simple memories have just been such a wonderful thing to be able to bring into our lives. It's actually kind of like a family tradition for me. My grandparents had a trailer here at one point that they would come to in the summer. My parents actually met here throughout the summer. My aunts and uncles have lived here. I have childhood memories of coming here. And so this campground really kind of just runs in our family in a way, and I love it. And it has so many beautiful spaces that are run by volunteers, because the one actually wonderful thing about this campground that we're at is that it's a not-for-profit, and so it stays reasonably priced and it's run by volunteers who are amazing, and it just continues to be this great place for people to come with their kids. The kids have actually been outside more this summer than I think they have any other summer. That includes when we lived in a house across the street from a park. That includes us traveling the world and having certainly lovely experiences going outside to a variety of places. But here it was just, even in those places though, we ended up having days that we would go out together, and they didn't feel as comfortable just kind of going out on their own and playing outside all that easily. Whereas here, it's just simply, they just go. The park's right beside us. We got a park like a few steps down the road as well, and we got this beach park here. So it's just been quite amazing for them to be able to go out, go biking, go whatever, do whatever they want. So really, staying in this trailer for the summer is really just kind of like camping the whole summer and creating those wonderful, simple camping memories. Do you hear? The squirrels are so loud around here. They're very happy. The second reason why it's good is because we've come back to a fairly precarious housing situation. This is true across the globe, really, and it's definitely true across Canada. When we came back in the area, we were okay with temporary as we figured out what we wanted to do, but it became pretty apparent that temporary might not be so temporary. We might have to deal with this temporary living situation for longer than we had planned. We were in Airbnbs in the off season, but you can't be in Airbnbs on season. It's far too expensive. We had to think outside the box, which really isn't hard for us. We tend to think outside the box. If you have watched anything else in our channel, you'll kind of know that we do all kinds of things. We've traveled around the world, we've lived across Canada, we've done all kinds of things. And so thinking outside the box isn't hard for us. And now we could have come back and we could have just been upset or angry about the housing situation, which, to be completely honest, I still am, not even just for us, but for generally the people who are struggling with it. In our situation, we had the privilege of being able to own this trailer in this park that is a wonderful campground that actually generally increases in value, and also be able to have the memories that we've had throughout this entire summer. I am actually glad that we didn't have something permanent, because it forced us to think of outside the box and come here and make these memories. Moving forward, we still are trying to figure all this out, but for now, we are super happy and have found so much good in being able to be here. Now, you might think that a family of 4, especially one with a teen, would have a hard time living in such a small space. But actually, our teen has done very well and seems quite happy in this situation. We talk about these things frequently because we're a very close family, and he is quite fine. I think if we had just a tiny bit more room and he could have his own space, he certainly would take it. But at the same time, he's quite content in where he is, which is sharing a room with his brother, very small. But the nice thing is that throughout the summer, they spend a lot of their time outside. The inside space being small is not as important because we just have so many amazing outdoor spaces to kind of enjoy. You might be surprised at how comfortable you can be in such a small space. Now, this won't work in the winter, which is why we are going to go back to an Airbnb in the off season. But for the nice weather months, it's amazing, and I wouldn't give it up for anything else. Don't get me wrong, cramped spaces can be hard, and they actually do. It will come up later in this video. I'm not saying that having cramped spaces is super easy all the time, but I am saying that it's doable and we actually can still be content and happy within that space. And to top it all off, it is a great money saving situation because the place that we're at generally holds its value or goes up in value. Our month-to-month rent here, if we're staying here about 5 months out of the year, is $500 a month, and that is incredibly affordable. Money saving alone is quite a benefit to being able to be here. Now let's move on to the bad. It has taken some updates and more updates, and as those updates just don't like to stick. Literally. I updated the trailer because I didn't want it to feel necessarily like a trailer. I wanted it to feel like a home. And so we painted it, we put in new flooring, and I put up this beautiful wallpaper that it was inspired by our trip to Spain that add vibrancy and interest into the trailer that I absolutely loved. However, what I didn't realize is that this kind of peel and stick wallpaper is not great for trailers, especially in a place like Canada where the weather fluctuates constantly. Because of that, I did not actually match up the wallpaper well enough, and so it starts making these tiny gaps in between each one of those panels. It also starts just peeling right off the wall. It just doesn't stick anymore, and I honestly, it was such a pain in the butt. I didn't want to have to pull all of it off and glue it on permanently. That just felt like, I don't know if I want to do that. So we ended up having to take it all down. It was a very costly lesson because that wallpaper was about $450 maybe, something like that. Just all completely fell. So we had to take it all down, and we just ended up painting it. We've also had to do other fixes like pulling the flooring back up so that we could fix the water damage to the wood underneath the flooring. In the end, it's still cheaper than a house because the updates in a house would cost so much more money. The bad thing number 2 is that we actually can't live here all year round for 2 reasons. One is the park really isn't meant to be a place that you live in all year round, and also because it is not really meant for winter. It's not winterized, and quite honestly, it wouldn't work in such a cramped space. Can't ever foresee myself being able to live in such a small space during the winter when you can't go outside and enjoy the outside quite as easily, especially with kids. Like if as an adult, it would be a little bit easier because I can, I just put my boots on, whatever. But getting kids ready in the morning in the winter, if you have kids, it takes forever, and the amount of extra winter stuff that you have to have here in Canada, from snow pants to bulky snow jackets and boots and all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't have the space. Having the trailer late spring into early fall, beautiful, but after that, it just doesn't work. On to the ugly. Well, we have been able to maintain anywhere from happy to generally sane in this space. You do have to admit that cramped spaces can be hard sometimes. The tiny showers, the having to kind of dance around people in the space just to get around, and the fact that sometimes people are just in your way and you want them to move and not be there. Or the fact that your kitchen is tiny and your counter space is even tinier and you just have hardly any room to be able to cook things and do things, and it gets a little bit much. Absolutely, the tiny space can get to you. I mean, it's fine because we have the outdoor spaces for general recreation and being able to, not feel like you're always in this tiny space, but there are certain elements to it that can be quite challenging. And if you're not used to being in a tiny space with somebody and having that kind of closeness with people, then, you know, it can get hard. It's like, you know, the smell from the bathroom sometimes. We have full on like sewage here and everything. It can get smelly. You know, living in these small spaces can sometimes be a tad bit ugly. However, I feel it's incredibly important to note that no matter the circumstance that we have ever lived in, there is good, bad, and ugly. We've lived in the basement of someone's house where Corbin had to have baths in like a large bin in the shower, basically, where we didn't even really have a kitchen sink. But we still had amazing, happy memories. We have lived in big houses. We have owned houses. We have lived just moving from house to house as we traveled. We have lived in the Middle East, and we have lived in all over Canada. And so now we have lived in a tiny home trailer. We have lived in all of these circumstances. But what I have learned and come to know is that in every situation, there is good, bad, and ugly. But in the end, we often remember the happy and laugh at the bad or ugly. And so we are happy to have all of these experiences in our life. And if you have ever thought about living in a tiny home or wondered what it would be like, or maybe you're in a situation where you have to do it, just know that there are going to be good and bad times, but you can still make happy memories. And tell me in the comments, have you ever wanted to live in your own tiny home? What you would like to have that look like? What kind of memories you would like to make? If you've missed our adventures across Europe, then make sure to check our video out over here, and we will see you every further mile.